All right.
All right.
So,
Hello and
and
welcome to the Formula Juan podcast
hello, everybody.
with
Another
the
week.
with the
Sorry.
titular Juan
Hello. That's me.
and then me.
Hello. Oh man. So Monaco, very exciting, very dramatic. A lot more dramatic than I anticipated, but I think it was mostly because of the rain. Like the rain really threw a wrench in there, and like yeah, things got wild. Wilder than they usually get in Monaco at the very least. As a whole, I was thinking that like Spain was probably the lowest point of the season, but I actually think Monaco like picked it up a little bit, like much
Actually, I
needed.
think Monaco and you mean that Monaco is better than Spain on like terms of excitement?
Yeah, it was better than Spain in terms of excitement.
I think so too, but I do have some complaints as to why
Mhm.
it happened. That's what we do. We complain.
We complain a lot, yeah. And I think there's plenty of complaints for this one, but we can save them all for the end. I guess the big thing.
Yeah, we,
I
we
mean,
can just go right into it if you
yeah, right,
want.
right into the big thing, which is obviously,
Sergio Perez or
well,
Ferrari?
I was gonna say Leclerc not winning because that I think that was the
Okay.
storyline of the weekend. It's not because, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I mean, props to Perez. He won the race. He deserves it. Good on him. But I am of the mind that like he just got lucky. Like he didn't drive any better than anybody. He didn't outrace anybody. He just happened to be in Monaco, and Red Bull happened to put him on the right strategy. Because I think at the end of the day, so the right strategy, and I was screaming this from my TV. I was like, why isn't everybody pitting right now for Inters? Because that's when Pierre Gasly pitted, he was immediately doing the fastest laps. He was
Yep.
immediately doing it, and he did the and then he got stuck
So
behind traffic.
so yeah, he was not an yeah. Okay, I was gonna say that he was, but also he was not. He was like about the same speed as Leclerc, and I was monitoring the lap times of Gasly live, and I'm like, at some point he's gonna go faster than Leclerc, and I'm like,
Mhm.
he's not. And what's happening? He's not going faster, and he's not going faster, and then it's because he's stuck in traffic.
Correct.
But he can clearly go faster than Leclerc, which at the time was the second fastest car out there. Like pulling, like it was Gasly's fastest lap, then Leclerc fast lap, then Leclerc fast lap, and you can tell that Gasly really have the tires like for the right occasion. He just got unlucky and got stuck behind traffic.
Correct. Yes. So I was like, yes, this. I mean, and these conditions, you look at them, it just looked like it was getting drier and drier. So I was like, this is the perfect time to pit for the inters. Like everybody should pit for the inters, and then nobody did it. No, nobody went to the pits. Everybody just kept driving and kept driving and kept driving, and I was just like, I don't know who or why people are deciding not to pit. I think everybody kind of had this assumption that like it was gonna go into dries like relatively quickly, but it was taking way too long for it to go into the dries. So Perez goes into the pits. The Red Bull finally has the balls to like tell him like go into the pits. We're gonna put the inters, and they put the inters on him, and then Ferrari don't react. Ferrari don't do anything, and
Yeah, I think at that moment, because Perez was racing Sainz at that point in time, right?
yeah.
So I think Perez was gonna undercut Sainz, and then they were worried about him. Like it's like we don't
Mhm.
have to worry about Leclerc now because Leclerc has like a 9 or so second lead from Perez.
Yeah.
So it's okay if we don't pit Leclerc. Let's pit Sainz. But then Sainz at that point was like,
He
I
refused.
wanna, yeah, I'm gonna stay out for the dries.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we're fine with that. And then that deliberation of them considering whether Science should stay out in dries meant that, like, I think Perez pitted on lap 17. And then
Mhm.
on that same lap, like, they needed to pit Leclerc, but they waited like an extra lap.
No, they
And
waited.
then they,
I think they waited a bunch of extra laps. It wasn't just
no,
one.
no, so Leclerc passed the pit lane, and then Perez came in.
Mhm.
And then they decided, should we pit Sainz right now to cover Leclerc? I mean, to cover Perez.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And at that point, because Sainz didn't cover him, Leclerc had already gone an extra lap again. And then they pitted Leclerc. So Leclerc pretty much did almost 2 extra laps before Ferrari reacted to cover Perez.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt long. I thought, to me, I don't know, maybe because I was watching the race, to me it felt longer. I thought it was like 5 laps that Perez set out on the Inters. Because I was like, why isn't Ferrari reacting? I mean, especially when you could tell that there was so much more pace. But I mean, that's like the thing. That's like the thing that's like about Ferrari that is like always an issue. And it's like the thing that I've always said and that I said from the beginning of the season, that whenever there's a decision to be made, you can reliably assume that Ferrari is gonna fuck it up pretty much every time. I mean, this has been the case since the moment since I started watching, like back in 2017, but until today, whenever there's a strategy call, the strategies at Ferrari are so bad that it's always like, it's literally always Ferrari versus Ferrari. When they have the fastest car, it's like, okay, Ferrari can win, but can they not game themselves? Can they not play themselves? And it's like the answer is usually no. I mean, there's some lucky times that it's worked out right, but not this time. And it was so painfully evident for everybody that was like, what is Ferrari doing? I mean, Leclerc was 6 seconds ahead of the lead. I mean, like in the right strategy. How is it possible that your lead driver ends up in fourth, like at the end of the race? That
Yep.
shouldn't happen, especially in a Monaco Grand Prix. I mean, like where like he can't even pass back and anything. Like this is a place where you had to get the strategy. You just had to make 1 or 2 stops in the entire race, and they couldn't even manage to get that right.
I think they, like, during the race, Monaco is very well known. And if you watch like the past, at least the last 3 years, well, last year there was no Monaco Grand Prix, but the past 2 after that, it's a track notorious for, like, if you do the overcut, like as opposed to try to undercut the people in front, like if you are able to manage the tires and come into the pits last, it ends up working out better for you because you stay out there. And like what ends up happening is like people pit early trying to undercut whoever they're in front of, but when they pit early they get stuck in traffic. So no matter how fast they can go, they end up losing the position and they don't end up undercutting anybody.
Yeah.
Because if you stay out there, you're probably in the front with like clean air. Like the only reason to pit is like if you're stuck in traffic and there's a gap that you can fall, like that you can drop back into the race if you pit, where there's free air for you and you're not going to be stuck in traffic. And Monaco is like notorious for that. So I think the reason they didn't come for Inters early is because they thought like there's no gap for our driver.
There wasn't a gap. That was an issue. But so
I think by Perez being farther back, like 9 seconds behind, like Red Bull could guarantee a gap for Perez so he can try to undercut people. They didn't cover Sainz on the Ferrari pit lane. And then I think even though it was 2 laps, Perez made like 3 seconds off of Leclerc in those 2 laps.
In like super quick, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
so when they pitted Leclerc, it's like, okay, he should be relatively good anyway with Perez because there's still like 6 seconds for him to manage. But then like the next part is that we all saw that the track was gonna go into dry.
Dryer, yes.
So like that now Ferrari needed to fucking nail like the switch to the dries. And you're like waiting and you're also waiting for Carlos Sainz to go onto the dries. And you're like, when are they going to switch Sainz to the dries? It looks like Leclerc is still going. Well, Leclerc also had awful pace on the Inters for some reason.
Yeah, it wasn't that fast. It was not as fast.
So
Maybe
like
because
even
they needed to warm up or whatever.
Yeah. So the timing was bad for Charles to try to like work the tires, and then they pitted him. Like maybe the tires weren't even warm enough for him to start doing like good laps. And then they told him to pit again on the same lap that they told Sainz. They're like, oh, stay out. We fucked up.
Yes. So I think there's like the thing is that like it's not easy to break down the exact moment where everything went wrong because there's like layers of like decisions. Like one influenced the next bad decision after the other,
Yeah.
where it was like the original strat, as I said, the original strat should have been like pit early and pit for inters. That should have been the OG strategy because that's what Perez did and
Yeah.
that's what won the
Assuming
race.
that there's a gap for you to follow.
Assuming
Yeah.
there's a gap, but ideally you pit, you have enough pace to pass some guys. I mean, ideally speaking, I know it's Monaco,
Yeah.
but that's the first layer. But then if they think that it's gonna go into the dries, then the strategy is commit to that, right? Like if it's because it seems like Carlos understood that what the track was happening, which was good from him. It was actually a good like trying to correct Ferrari's terrible decision making. Like he's done
Yep.
this in the past, and he kind of knew that this was the right strategy. So that's no number two. If you're gonna go for that strategy, then commit to it. But they
Yep.
did like a half-ass of it because they should have picked Carlos to cover up for Perez, but they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Instead,
But
they
Carlos kind of forced them into like, hey, let's not.
correct. So at that point, it's like then either pit Leclerc right away or commit to the dries because one of the two is better. And the dry strategy was the dry ones at that point. At that point, it was no longer the inters; it was the dry ones. So just commit to the dry ones. But then they pull Leclerc in, and then they keep Sainz out, and then now this is where I think the right decision was to call in Perez and then Sainz and then immediately call in Leclerc as well. I think that's I would say that was not a mistake because it was just obvious that the faster pace was actually the hard. So I think
Yeah. They needed to nail switching the cars over to the dries. Like they needed to nail the timing for it.
yes,
And they didn't.
they didn't. They were off by like a second.
Yeah, and like the extra pit stop for Leclerc just it screwed him over.
Yeah,
Like I think you lose like 25 seconds or 30 seconds. I don't know how much time you lose in Monaco on each pit lane. Like
or
I
like
think it's about 25 seconds sounds about
yes.
right because it's a very short pit lane,
Mhm,
but it's also slower than most of the other ones.
mhm.
But assuming it's 25 seconds, it means that Leclerc came in like it means that Perez came in 25 seconds. Leclerc lane came in 25 seconds. Then they pitted Sainz 25 seconds. And then Leclerc came in for another extra 25.
Switch my
So
yeah.
Leclerc lost 50 seconds when they only needed to do one pit stop and switch him to the dries because they didn't nail, like they pitted him too late for the inters. So like Perez was able to stay out in the inters longer than both Ferraris. With clean air and have a good working window for the inters.
Yeah.
So when he pits, I think Leclerc also lost like 3 seconds waiting for them to take sign. Like he had to slow down. And like I know that these are just seconds, but that's what it is. Formula One. Every lap is just based on like how fast you are, and it's that like we measured by thousands of seconds.
And honestly, it's kind of impressive because they really, they really kind of did screw like Leclerc up by that much, and then he even then he was just like right there, like right behind like Verstappen still. He had like enough like race pace to like keep up with them. But no, it was just I don't know, like a terrible screw up. But it's more than that. I think it's like something that like Ferrari really, really, I thought that by this point they would have changed, but they really haven't been challenged since like 2 years ago, like or they haven't been challenging for like wins and stuff like that. But they haven't improved. They haven't made like those substantial changes for their strategies. I don't know who strategizes at Ferrari or if it's a team. Like they have thousands, like so much data all the time, and it's one of the best budgeted teams in all of Formula One, and they can't get these things right. I don't understand that. It's like a pit stop. It's really.
I feel like this is something that if Mercedes was like the winning team, it wouldn't happen to Mercedes.
Mercedes were great. Whenever Mercedes had to make a decision, they just make a decision. And Bottas is driving, and he's like, I want to do something else than Lewis, and they're like, okay, Bugs. And they're like, psych, no, you're doing what we're telling you to fucking do, because we're the strategists. Like, we know
Yeah.
what's happening in the race, we tell you what to do, and like you get to do whatever we tell you to do. And that's how it should be. I mean, I understand Sainz thinks it's better drives. Sure, that's fine, but we still need to cover Perez, so you need to come in. It doesn't matter. Like, we'll commit Leclerc to the better strategy. That's fine, but we still get the win.
Yeah.
Um, that's how it should be. They should have, like, those people making like decisions, and like, and I feel bad for Sainz too. Or I guess not bad. I feel bad for Leclerc in a different way, because Sainz is like, he constantly, and he's done this in the past as well, where he just tells the team how, like the strategy, because like he wants the strategy in a particular way, and a lot of times he's right. But Leclerc is not like that. Leclerc, like, he's just a fast driver. He's not trying to strategize in the middle of the race.
Yeah,
As
it's like, I'm gonna drive this car as fast as I possibly can, better than anybody else. You just have to get me into the pits and out at the right times, and I'll
Yes.
do the rest.
Exactly. Just, I need somebody to do the math for me, and I'll do whatever I have to do. It's actually, it's funny. Back in the middle of COVID, when Leclerc was doing Twitch streaming, one
Yeah.
of the things that was like obvious is that Leclerc wasn't good at like creating his own strategies and stuff, because like that was not his forte. He was like, I think I can make it, and then he couldn't make it, before the line, or before the pole star or whatever. Like, he was always messing that up. Like, I really don't think that's his forte. His forte is not like coming up with the strategy, but his forte is that, like, he's so fucking good. Like, and like, you could see it in Monaco. You could see it in Monaco that like he's really fast, like, all the time, but he needs help from the team. And I mean, and I think that's fine. I think that's how it should be. That's what the team is there for. That's why you have like a team of like dozens and
Yeah.
dozens of people in the factory, all tracking the data, so that they can
Yeah,
tell
and I mean, they have
what to
like
do.
all these mega computers
Yeah.
that like tell you that everybody's doing this laps every single, like, you can see current lap this, and you can see all the drivers, and assumes like average speed, average lap time, based on our calculations and how we see the race going. The computer can tell you the race is gonna end this way. Like, they
Oh,
have
yeah.
that information, they have that computer, and so they know, like, you need to come in for this tire.
For
Like,
whatever, yeah.
that's just what you have to do. It is, I mean, you never know. That is, like, the computer can't always be right, because it doesn't take into account the human factor.
Mhm.
That, like, drivers can crash, they can mess up, or they can do an unbelievable performances out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So yes, I understand that the computer cannot predict the future,
Mhm.
but like, it's a good, like, thing to rely on if you need to base your strategy on that. I think it's also kind of impressive, for example, that, like, and it's the same. Carlos Sainz was able to call the strategy for this one and understands, like, hey, I'm gonna manage the tires, just leave me out.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like, I think 2 years ago, when Vettel was in Spain in Ferrari, and then he's like, hey, I'm gonna drive at this speed. Like, if I do like 125 fives from here till the end of the race, or like, yeah, I think something is like, tell me what my position is going to be if I do this lap time every single lap till the end of the race.
Mhm.
And then, like, Vettel is the one calling the strategy.
Yeah.
It's like, if I'm doing 25 fives and the person behind me is doing 24 sevens, what is my position at the end of the race?
Yep.
That's what you need to do. Or it's like, if the person behind me is doing this amount, what lap time should I do every single lap to get the best position?
So
You
I can
know?
end up ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, Vettel is the one calling them out. It's like, I'm telling you the math that you need to do.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be the driver telling you
Mhm.
what the math time is. Like, it's like, I'm driving my heart out here. If you tell me I need to go slower because I need to preserve my tires, I can manage that. If you tell me I need to go faster, I'll fucking go fast. But
Right.
just tell me what I need to do. That's what Leclerc kind of needs.
Yeah. And like,
And like, I think that's what most drivers kind of need.
I mean, yeah, because you don't know what's happening in the race. I mean, you literally can only see ahead and like a little bit on your mirrors. You can't tell like who's pitting, who's not pitting, what strategy they're on, what's the fastest thing, who's doing the fastest time on what tires. You don't have any of that information. All you can do is you can just tell them like this feels good and maybe I should keep going with this. And a lot of times Hamilton is like, I don't know if we should be doing this, like Hamilton to his team, he's doing it, and they're like, we're gonna pit you anyways. And then they pit him. Hamilton trusts the team. He's like, okay, they're gonna pit me, and then they pit him, and like, boom! All of a sudden, it's like the right strategy. You won the race, and he's like, I should have trusted the team. I mean, there's been times before where like Hamilton has overridden the team and he's done his own thing, but like if that's rarely the case. Usually, the team you should rely on your team to make those types of decisions. And
Yep.
Ferrari just constantly makes the wrong decisions for the drivers. So I,
Yeah.
I, I honestly don't understand. I don't understand what the issue is. I mean, I think they're great car makers, but like they on the strategizing portion of it, like they've been lacking for a long time. And I've said it. I kind of feel vindicated after this weekend because like I've been saying it for a long time that like whenever there's a decision to be made, Ferrari reliably is gonna fuck it up. so so yeah, I mean, yes,
Yeah.
but
Uh, I mean, I don't know if you have anything else besides that. In order to like the Ferrari losing their own race, and Leclerc losing the race, but now we can keep staying the topic of Ferrari. Is that what about Carlos Sainz? He thinks that he lost the race, which I gave him criticism right after the race ended, but because I didn't know what had happened.
oh, the
uh,
Latifi
that
situation.
like when he came out of the pit lane, Latifi just
Blocked them
wouldn't
essentially.
move.
Yeah.
Yeah, until like all the way till the tunnel.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, how can you allow a driver to do that? Like, was that I think as far as I understand it, if you're a lapped car, you get 3 instances of blue flags and you have to give position before that third one,
Yep. That's
you
that's
know?
my understanding as well. Yeah.
So like you get like there's a car behind you, blue flag, like right now you need to let them pass. Then another blue flag is like you have a third one. If by the third one you haven't given the position, you're gonna get a penalty.
You get a penalty, yeah.
And I don't know if what are the posts on the Monaco Grand Prix where they signal the blue flag. It
There
cannot be 3 blue flags all the way to the tunnel.
I think
There's more.
there's probably more than that, yeah. I would imagine too. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to count
Yeah.
this, but no, I'm pretty sure from the replay. I mean, he went from the pit all the way until like from the pit exit all the way until the tunnel. Yeah, that's gotta be more than three. And like it almost seemed like he was gonna let him go at first, but then he changed his mind and like immediately got in front of him and then just stayed in front of him and in front of Sainz. And yeah, I don't understand that either. I I mean
I mean,
I
science does say that he lost the race because of that, but obviously, it's easy to be mad, like hindsight 2020. Like you
yeah.
never know that that's what's gonna happen.
I feel like
Um,
I kind of understand why it bugs you. I don't know if it's a bad thing. I mean, because okay, so the way I'm seeing it, I mean, I think it's kind of obvious that Leclerc is the best driver or the better driver at the moment, and like that the team should sort of have a preference for him, and that like his job essentially is just to be consistent and to be in the right places at the right time. But I think Carlos doesn't see himself as that. He thinks like he can fight for wins, and he has the right to. I feel like if you're in Ferrari, it's because you do have the thirst of winning, and whenever you're not winning, you're kind of upset about it. I I don't necessarily think that's a good trait, but it's probably a good trait for a driver to have. So I kind of get it. I kind of get being upset that like this one tiny thing, you change it and like you might have like won the race. I don't know. It makes sense to me. I'm not like fully in disagreement with him complaining about that after the race, even though he got like second place, like in Monaco, which
yeah.
is not bad and got a whole lot of good points. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to complain once you know the result. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, he's like,
I guess
oh,
so.
look how the race ended. I ended second, and I like Perez only got in front of me by like like a sliver of a second. And the reason was because Latifi wouldn't move out of the way.
Yeah,
Uh, so it's easy to complain in hindsight,
yeah.
but you don't know. Like, what if Perez's engine just, I don't know, gives up?
And then you don't.
Uh,
There's no reason to
and
complain.
there's no reason to complain, even though you got stuck behind the guy. Or what if Perez crashes? Or what if Red Bull have a slow pit stop for Perez? Like, you are complaining knowing the result.
Yeah.
Uh, like when I mean, I know Leclerc complained probably the whole time after the mistake, but like
Mhm.
when the mistake was made, he complained at that point in time.
Oh yeah, he gave a
Yeah.
pretty
So
loud
like
complaint there.
Sainz is like I'm not gonna say anything, and then at the end it's like, see, I told you because this, and I'm like, I mean, it's easy once you know what happened, you know.
Yeah.
So that's like the other thing that bugs me. But aside from, like, it's not something that it bugs me massively.
Hmm, hmm.
Uh, I thought like that he meant there was a point where like he was catching Perez towards the last laps, and they
Oh, I
were
see.
lapping Latifi again.
Got it.
And in the main straight, Latifi like didn't fully get out of the way, and like Sainz had to slow down. I thought he referred to that moment.
Oh, I
Uh,
see. I see what you were saying.
and that's why I'm like, bro, like you had to overtake, but like he didn't mean that moment. It's like when he came out on like a fresh tires, and then Latifi wouldn't move out of the way. So I understand, but still.
Yeah, no, I get it. I guess that it kind of goes in hand with, I don't know. I feel like I should be happier for Perez than I am, but I'm not. I like,
I
because
know, right?
I just think that like he got lucky. It's not like he like outdrove everybody, or like he was going so much
Or
faster.
he was going significantly faster than, because you can tell that everybody behind him was faster.
Was faster, yeah, exactly. Like everybody in any other circuit, they would have passed him. So it's just like Red Bull tried something different, because at that point it was kind of like we need to try something, and it just worked. And then like he didn't even defend well per se, because he used all his tires. He didn't have tires at the end. It's just he couldn't get past because he's Monaco. so I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's just one of those races where like you see it happening. Leclerc can't even fight back for his spot, even though he's right there. He's literally like within like 3 seconds of Perez, but like there's nothing you can do. So yeah, well, it's an exciting race. Well, it was like fun to watch, and I'm sure it was like fun for like Perez fans as well. It's just kind of like I don't know. It didn't feel like the best driver won. It just felt like it was kind of left to somebody.
Yeah,
Uh,
like he landed on that spot, and I mean, he made the best result out of it, and I'm happy for him. Like, it's
mhm.
not that I dislike Perez winning, especially a Latin driver. I'm
Yeah.
all about supporting like Hispanic drivers winning in the sport.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, it's like, did the fastest driver win the race? That's what I mean. I don't think they did,
No, no,
but aside from that, I'm happy about the result.
but what is positive to say about him is that he did get that pole position. He did get the pole position, and he was at the right moment
He
at the right
didn't
time.
get pole position.
No, no, sorry. Well, ahead of Verstappen at the very least.
Yeah,
Um,
he was
so he
faster than Verstappen on the weekend.
yes, he was at the right moment at the right time, which is essentially what we've always said, that if you're number two driver, that's all you're aiming for. You're aiming to be consistent, and when things like this happen, you take advantage of them. So good for him. So yeah, the last thing I guess I wanted to talk about was I guess is the pole position, not so much the incident, but I feel like Leclerc was just on such a streak on that qualifying. Like he was flying, and I guess this is where I got that weird feeling. Sometimes you just get the energy of the weekend.
Like, something's
Uh,
gonna happen.
that like something's not quite right, or like, so you kind of have the feeling of like, I kind of get a sense of where this is going, when like he was like faster than anybody. He was just flying through an entire qualifying like performance, and then there was an incident and he couldn't finish that lap, which would have been one of the best laps of his career, maybe one of the best laps of all time. because he was just going.
He was just going faster than everybody else.
It was
Like he was
incredible.
already pretty fast. Like he
Yes,
already had a provisional pole, and
by
then
quite a
that
bit, by like three
yeah,
tenths.
and then by
Yeah.
that last lap, he was like going even faster, and I'm like, holy crap, this guy is like really going for it.
Yes,
Uh,
and I feel like somehow something in my head was like something is wrong. Like if he had finished that lap, incredible. I don't think he would have lost this Grand Prix. I don't know, in a different universe. But like since he didn't complete it, just feel like like something's wrong. This weekend is not gonna go according to plan. I can already tell. Like this is not like the legendary like Leclerc winning a home race. So immediately I was just like,
were you
uh,
able to see Perez like is losing the car behind Leclerc when it
yeah,
happened?
yeah,
Yeah, when it happened, I'm like, whoa, was that a fucking Red Bull going on the wall? Like, did I
going
just watch
sideways.
that? And I'm like, what was that? And then
Yeah.
like the commentators were like also saw it, and I'm like, okay, well, it wasn't just me. And then yeah, like they fucking crashed.
Yeah. I was wondering what you thought about Sainz crashing into Perez. I thought it was a pretty obvious thing, but I want to hear your thoughts.
No, I thought it was an incident. I think Sainz was also on his lap pushing as fast as he could, and then when he saw the yellow flag, it was too late. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw the replay, and obviously, I think he does have the time to not crash into Perez. But
Mhm.
then again, it's like hindsight. Like I know there's gonna be a car going sideways in the next corner,
Yeah.
so I'm already waiting. Like, is there a yellow flag for me to react? And I'm like, oh yeah, there is. But like I already know that right around the corner there's a Red Bull against the wall. So I think it was just like a normal accident, and that Signs did like didn't have much reaction time to actually do something about it.
No, yeah, I think because he was already on his braking zone. He was, I think, pretty much braking, and then like he just turned, and the car was there. It's like, oh, well, what do you do? You know, like I was just going on the
Yeah,
braking. So yeah. Well, anyways, that was everything. I just wanted to talk about that like missed opportunity that it would have been like a pretty legendary lap in my opinion. I mean, kind of I got feelings of like Verstappen back in Saudi Arabia, or like a feeling of like Hamilton back in like Singapore in
oh
2000
Singapore, yeah.
in 2019, where it was just like out of nowhere. Like, well, I guess that one was a little bit out of nowhere, where like he just went a second faster than everybody else. Just like he no right to be there, no right to do that. Just a second faster, and then on his next lap, he couldn't even get close to that lap. It was just an unbelievably clean lap. It was that type of thing that I feel like once he wasn't completed, I was like, something is off with this weekend. Something's funky. But anyways, that's I think
Yeah.
that's all.
Okay.
All right. So
There.
what do you want to talk about next? There were a lot of like little incidents, little things, whatever you want.
Yeah. I think we can talk about a little bit about Sergio Perez, who actually won the race. And this is a conversation that you and I had a little bit earlier in the season. That is like, okay. First, I'll give my example. Okay, first I'll tell you what we're gonna talk about. Is Perez gonna challenge Verstappen for the championship?
Hmm, I
And we
see.
talked about this earlier in the season because Verstappen's car kept breaking down and Perez was actually making up some points over Verstappen. Um, but I don't, and like I saw a lot of people just saying this that like, oh, Perez can fight for the championship. Is that he's
Hmm.
beating Verstappen. He's faster than Verstappen. Look, he just demonstrated it in Monaco just now. He won the race and Verstappen got third. And then also it's like, oh, and in Spain, they Perez only lost the race because they told him to swap places with Verstappen. So like they like people are or like also in Saudi Arabia, it's like, oh, Perez was gonna win the race in Saudi Arabia, but there was a safety car. And
Hmm.
and like these are things that is like Perez can definitely challenge for the championship. And although I love Sergio Perez
Hmm.
as a driver, I think people are saying things that I don't know. They're
Hmm.
overhyping Sergio Perez.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think people like to believe that like there is more to it than like a driver being faster than the other driver. but But in reality, I think Verstappen is just too quick, too fast, and like the team is also built around him. The only way in which I could see the Perez winning this season is if Verstappen has a bunch of DNFs and like or incidents that keep happening.
Reliability issues, yeah.
All of these things. That's the only way. That's the only way in which I see it happening. Because in reality, no, I Perez, unfortunately, he is fast and he is good, but he's not really quite there in a lot of the moments that count. Like for example, that Saudi Arabia one was a good example, where it's like this is your moment to prove it. Like like this is shows the proof that like you deserve to win a championship. And it's like they put you back on fourth place. You're supposed to have the faster car. Prove it. Drive faster than Sainz, and then faster than Leclerc, and he wasn't even able to go faster than Sainz. Like he
Yep.
wasn't even able to retake a position, which Verstappen was able to do on that race. He was able to
He
pass
overtook Leclerc, yeah.
and won the race. So it's like,
Yeah, but people say like, oh, like Perez only lost the race because of the safety car.
Yeah.
And like, but did he like the argument that we make is the one you just made? It's like Verstappen. I think if you switch the roles, if it would have been Verstappen on Perez's position,
Yep.
and Verstappen would have been fourth behind Sainz, Verstappen would have overtook Sainz and fought for the win from
Correct.
fourth place.
Mhm.
And Perez in that, like, I don't think anybody can say like, oh, that wouldn't have happened. Verstappen wouldn't have been able to pass Sainz.
Right.
It's like can anybody truly say that Verstappen wouldn't have been able to do that?
Right, exactly. I
And,
mean,
and we're talking about like Saudi Arabia here.
exactly right. And he was able to pass Leclerc, which at that point, even then, was the faster Ferrari. So like I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think there's much of an argument there. I think
And then there's also like if you want to do the argument in Spain.
in Spain too, yeah.
I know that Perez was faster than Verstappen for a portion of the race, but I think, and we also talked about it last week on the Spanish podcast, the Spanish GP podcast, even though we're both Spanish. Anyway,
Yeah. I guess.
that Verstappen is told, or Perez is told, to let Verstappen by, so Verstappen can overtake Russell. But Verstappen is now stuck behind Russell because there's no DRS available for him. So now Perez is getting his race ruined because Red Bull doesn't. They're like, well, it's not Max's fault that he can't overtake Russell. It's just his car is broken.
Yeah.
And like it was broken 50% of the time. Like it would work, then it wouldn't work, then it would work. So like you're sacrificing Perez's race. But in all honesty, Perez was behind Russell for a couple of laps and couldn't overtake him.
Yep, he was. He tried to fight him a few times, and like, well, I mean, Russell was defending well, but at the same time, Verstappen eventually just passed him, or like passed him once he had like the DRS reliably.
Yeah.
With him, so.
And then like later in the race, I know that you have Perez in front and Verstappen coming behind, and they tell Perez to let him by. And I don't think there's anybody here that can say that like, oh, if they wouldn't have told him, that Perez would have won the race. Like, I think we all saw that Verstappen was eventually going to pass him. Like he was going to overtake Perez and going to win the Spanish Grand Prix, even if they allowed them to race. Like It would have been fun to see them racing and fight with each other. But I think everybody here knows like Verstappen more than likely would have been able to come on top.
Yeah, no, I mean, he on that case, he had plenty of laps to like try for something, and also immediately after like Perez let him through, Verstappen just flew by. Like he's just like 5-6 seconds ahead in just like a few laps. So it's like, I mean, there's no real argument there. Like Verstappen was just driving faster, and I honestly don't know what happened in Monaco. I don't understand the lack of pace from Verstappen. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think it's okay. Like drivers are always really good and reliable, and Verstappen is always really good and reliable, but they're gonna have weekends that they're just off. Yeah. I think like if you look at no matter the sport, like I think If you see Michael Jordan wasn't amazing in every game. There were games he would just score 20 points and
Yeah,
like be a little off. But like you can like over the long run, you know that they're gonna perform when like it really counts.
exactly.
And Verstappen just couldn't get the setup of the car, or couldn't. I don't know why he was off pace.
Yeah, kind of
And
hard to explain.
yeah, but this is like one of those things that like when the second driver kind of shines, you know,
Hmm.
like if you are just like a reliable, solid second driver, just consistently being like at your maximum pace, is like I'm performing at my best every time. And I know that my best is not like the greatest of all time performance, but it's just like a consistently good performance, which is what Perez brings. And he can constantly bring like that solid performance. The moment that like the guy up here goes like down here, you're gonna be there to collect the points.
To get the point, yeah.
And that's what Perez has been doing, and it's worked out for him. This is what like Carlos Sainz also needs to do.
Yeah.
Like
And
Perez is, I think Perez is happy being the second driver, knowing that he's not the fastest guy. It's like, I know that Verstappen is faster than me. Like I just know. So I'm happy being second and playing second fiddle here.
Yeah.
Which in contrast, Carlos Sainz is like he's not happy.
He's not happy with that. Yeah, he wants more, or he thinks maybe he deserves more. I don't know, but yeah,
or he thinks that he can be just as good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I think good on Perez. I mean, he just got re-signed with Red Bull until 2024. And I think it's probably the perfect time to do it. They were probably planning to do it anyways. I mean, this didn't just happen because he won Monaco. It just, I'm pretty sure that they probably just liked him enough. I mean, like
I think winning the Monaco Grand Prix helped him negotiate or helped him get signed faster, right? Because what happens if like the rest of the season goes by and maybe he's world champion and now they have to sign him with like additional bonuses and money?
Actually, that's true. That's true too. It's probably good for both of them.
Yeah. So Perez is probably happy, like, yeah, I just won, let's sign. And then Red Bull is like, yeah, let's fucking sign him fast, because if he fucking wins more, the fee is gonna go up.
Yeah, which he could. I think I mean he's still well within like contention of the championship too. So like potentially he could be trying to outrace Verstappen. But it's just in my opinion, that seems unlikely. It seems unlikely that Verstappen
I feel like
wouldn't win.
Out of all the races we've had this year, I feel like, well, besides, okay, in Saudi Arabia, I think Perez did get the best out of Verstappen. Like Perez got pole, I believe. So he was faster in Saudi Arabia on qualifying. But when it came to the race, he got stuck behind Sainz after the safety car. And then people blame it that, oh, he lost the race because of that. But we just argue that that's not the case. And then like, so you can say Saudi Arabia in qualifying, he was faster than Verstappen, only in quali. And then this is the only other weekend in the whole year that Perez was faster than Verstappen. Verstappen, aside from that, has constantly gotten the best out of Perez.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Checo Perez, but I don't know. Unless you can, I don't know, equal Verstappen's performances on the next races to come, I'm not thinking that you're gonna win the championship.
Well, and I think next time is what is it? Is Baku, Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
So that's good. I mean that's been a good track for Checo historically. I think he's got good chances of proving there. Like, all right, can you actually fight? Can you actually go faster than Verstappen?
But he's won it before.
Yeah, he's won it before. Did he win it last year? I know that Verstappen like exploded last year.
Yeah, that's when Verstappen exploded, and then I think that's when Hamilton outbroke himself.
And then Perez won.
And then Perez won it, yeah.
Yeah. So and before that, he's also been in the podium there like a number of times. For some reason, he gets pretty lucky in there. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's supposed to be a good track for him. So let's see what happens. I mean, I know this is like on the prediction side of things, but I think I'm actually feeling like it's possible for Ferrari to win that race. but like they need to play the team game. Like they need to they I think they have the faster car in the entire track. Like if you do the entire track, but not on the straights. They do faster on the like the slower corners and stuff like that. If if you can get Leclerc first, Sainz second, and on the first turn, Sainz defends against Verstappen. Maybe if you give Leclerc a 4 second advantage over Verstappen, I think you have a race, and I think it's possible for them to win that, because then Verstappen can't really like catch up to
Yeah.
him, right?
Yeah.
That would be the strategy, in my opinion. But can they do that? Can they deliver that? I mean, Sainz has fucked that up every single race of the season. Where like he's ahead of Verstappen, Verstappen passes him on the first turn, and it's like immediately it's just Verstappen versus Leclerc, and I mean Verstappen just got the advantage in the passing situation. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. Anyways,
Okay.
that's just my take on how I see Baku. All right.
The next topic of conversation. So I have two more, and not really all the match, and one of them we can probably join it with something else. But this one is let's talk about Mick Schumacher.
Sure. What about Mick?
I know this is his second year in Formula One. You can say that is probably his second, like his rookie year, to be honest. Last year, the car wasn't there, has stopped developing it from the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
You know, they have two rookie drivers, Nikita Mazepin and Mick. And you don't know if Haas has a good car or if they don't. They're just, they stop developing it. So new regulations come into place. You have a faster car. You have an experienced driver now to accompany Mick on the team and can guide him and show him how to set up a car and everything. And he, every time there's a street circuit, he just bends it into the fucking wall.
Crashes it, yes.
Yeah.
And not only does he crash it, he crashes in a way like you think like he just died. Like he just broke
every
his neck.
time it's like, oh my God, like, are they okay?
Like, holy shit, yeah. Uh-huh.
Like in Monaco, like he crashed and they wouldn't show the car. And I'm like, show me the car. What happened?
I mean, he split the fucking thing in half. Like it looked pretty brutal from like the 1 second they showed, and they were like, maybe let's wait until he's okay, because who knows.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, sorry. It was. I guess it was a similar thing in Miami. It was a similar thing. Did he crash in Saudi Arabia? I think he crashed in
Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they didn't let him race. He had a concussion or something, I think.
Oh yeah. Well,
I think he crashed in the quali.
It seemed like it was just a very strong hit. So,
and also last year he also crashed there during the race. He was the one that caused a red flag.
I don't remember last year that one. I think it was too much about the drama last year that my mind is suppressed. But in any case, yes, he's he's crashing a lot in very dangerous ways. I don't know what else you want to talk about that.
Yeah, no. So my point is that I know he's a rookie driver, and we're giving him the benefit of the doubt that this year is his rookie year, but it's not really. But you compare him to other rookie drivers from last year. Let's say Yuki. Yuki last year crashed that car also like crazy.
Yeah, he did.
But this year Yuki has been he hasn't had accidents. I don't think Yuki has been like on the pace, or like putting stellar performances, but he's been solid.
Yeah.
Right. The other one that you have is Zhou. And then Guanyu is also like, he's been quite unlucky, but also he hasn't fucking trashed the car.
No, he hasn't destroyed it. He's got DNFs because like, who knows, whatever mechanical reason, but it's not his fault most of the time.
Yeah, so you have like these drivers that are all rookie drivers and that like have the same, if not a little bit less experience that Mick, but Mick is the one just destroying the car. Like if it, I think Mick Schumacher is such a nice guy, you know, and
Yeah.
also the name that he carries allow people to forgive him so much
Yeah.
because like of the legacy, and also he's, I mean, I can't ever imagine Mick Schumacher like, I don't know, killing a mosquito or stealing $1 from anybody. The guy is like the nicest guy ever.
He is pretty
Uh,
nice.
but when it comes to, if it would be any other driver, any other rookie driver just crashing it in and out every single weekend, you'd be like, maybe this guy doesn't need to be in Formula One, like, you know.
Well, I feel like specifically this year, because last year it was actually really easy, almost pressure off on him. So I guess I understand what you're saying, that like this is more like his rookie year this year, because he really didn't have any complications, and even then he still kind of like had a few incidents. But this year it's like Magnussen came back, and he came back with like a roar. Like Magnussen came back and he's like, oh, this car is actually drivable, and look, I'm like sixth place every single race, or like I can at least qualify on sixth, and kind of like get some points every now and then. Whereas Mick hasn't, has he gotten any points this season? I don't think he
No, not
has.
yet. No, him and Latifi are the only two drivers that don't get points.
So I think now he's starting to really feel like the pressure of like being a Formula One driver when like there's a reliably good driver next to you, and I just think he's trying to overdrive to overcompensate, to be like, no, see, I can do it. I'm like really fast too, and like he's been fast, and like he's got good chances to do it before, but like um incidents happen, like like that one race with Sebastian Vettel when he crashed into Vettel. What was that? Was that
Yeah, in
Miami?
Miami. Yeah,
Yeah, where it's like he was doing fine. He was actually flying through the field, and he would have gotten points, and then out of nowhere he crashed into Vettel for no reason, just
yep.
because he wanted to make a pass out of nowhere. Uh, and I don't know. I feel like that's just the effect of him like trying to like prove himself or like his spot in Formula One. And that like I don't know. I'm probably making him make a lot of mistakes, a lot of like silly mistakes.
Yeah, I think over the past couple of like mistakes, I have given him the benefit of like, he's new, he's still young, he's
Mhm.
still ironing out like all of these little mistakes out of his racecraft. But like now, this is the point where I'm like, okay, you gotta start ironing them out a little bit sooner because, or they're happening too frequently.
Yeah.
Like it's okay for that to happen, but not as frequently as it's been happening. This used to happen a lot to Brendan Hartley in Toro Rosso,
Mhm.
where
I can see
like
that.
his car would constantly crash, and it wasn't his fault really. Sometimes it would be his fault, but the car would break, and he would bin it against the walls.
Mhm.
He would crash it constantly, and eventually Red Bull sacked him. It's like, I'm sorry, like you're out. This would also happen to Danny Kvyat, the torpedo. Just like
The
he
torpedo
would
guy.
constantly like crash the car, and then it's like, I know you're a good driver, but you need to get this out of your system. And,
Yeah.
and I think this was happening to Latifi all the time. But I think Latifi now is like, listen, I'm just gonna drive slow as fuck.
Yeah, I'm not
Uh,
gonna I'm not gonna try to push.
no, that's right.
uh,
I'm just gonna drive this car, bring it home. That's my job here,
yeah.
and that's
Which
what he's been doing.
which I is in all fairness is what I said he should do at the beginning of the season. Maybe he watches the show, because I was like honestly, he just needs to enjoy driving. He just needs to enjoy the car and do what he can. I mean, it's very unlikely that he's gonna get signed for a lot longer than what he is now. He has not impressed a lot of people. He has not been able. He was never able to out qualify Russell, which even though Russell is fast, like even the fastest drivers in Formula One get outpaced every now and then. He was never able to do it. Um, so no, I unfortunately I don't think that Latifi's got it. So I think he should just be taking it easy. Driving back. taking, just having fun, maybe making passes whenever you get a chance, and improve the car or whatever. Enjoy the ride. But
Yep.
but yeah, Meek on the other hand, I think he's trying a little too hard. He's I don't know. I want to say that just relax or something, but I don't know. It's because it's not just about relaxing. I feel like he's just um I guess he's finding the right rhythm. Maybe finishing a couple of races and then like getting back into it, because he's not a slow driver. Like I think I said it before. I think he's in the I've always said like he's probably as fast as a Stroll, maybe a little faster than a Stroll. So I think he's definitely got a, I don't know, he's got pace to maybe even be in a slightly better team than has.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just yeah. That was the only thing I wanted to talk about. Mick Schumacher. That is just like let's.
Yeah. As as
I
a
don't want to see him crashing again.
as a whole, I've been thinking about this, and I was thinking like who are, like like every year we have like a list of like questionable drivers that should they still be in Formula One. Like previous years include Nikita Mazepin, and what was the other one?
Giovinazzi.
Giovinazzi. That we were just like sus. But I think this year I think Latifi is for sure there, but I think now it's starting to look like Yuki is there in my opinion.
Yeah, Yuki and Stroll for me.
Stroll is there, and also Mick.
Oh,
I think
Ricardo.
I'm Ricciardo, but I will say I will say that, and we can talk about Ricardo later, maybe when we're doing our rankings. I don't know, or we can just talk about it now. But Ricardo, I don't know what's going on with him. I think, and this is just pure conspiracy theory here in the moment. I just don't think he's in a good car for him. I think because he came in from Renault into the McLarens, and he said like I try to understand the car, but the driving style of the car, it doesn't fit me. So I'm really thinking about it, trying to understand it, trying to understand how to play it. I just don't think he understands that car. Like the McLaren car just doesn't fit him at all.
Yeah, the car is like a car made for Lando, you know?
Yeah.
Like Lando is the golden child of that team. Um,
Yeah.
and like Lando knows how to drive it. I think, yeah, Ricardo came from the Red Bull car that was matched with Verstappen,
Yep.
where Verstappen could definitely drive that car, but Ricardo could also drive it and challenge Verstappen, um, not every weekend, but like reliably almost every weekend.
Mhm.
Like he would be faster than Verstappen. He was like the only guy that like Verstappen would qualify like ahead of him, and then the next race Ricardo ahead of Verstappen, and the next race Verstappen ahead, and then like it was constantly between both of them, and you can see like these two guys are amazing. Verstappen for the most part look would always edge the performance out of Ricardo and like would beat him, but Ricardo was constantly there. So if we assume that by that logic that Ricardo's is like driving style is similar to what Verstappen likes to drive, which is like a very aggressive
Yeah.
sort of car. Renault didn't have an aggressive car. I remember when he went onto Renault and then he was racing in Baku, and then he tried to outbrake somebody before turn two, and then he just kept going straight because the car didn't have the
breaking.
downforce and the
Yeah.
braking force to like allow him to do those types of moves.
Mhm.
So Ricardo had to like adjust his driving styles. Like, okay, this is not a fucking Red Bull where I can just dive bomb everybody.
Yeah.
And he had to adjust to that. And then it didn't. I mean, he did get a podium on that on Mugello, I think. And then that was the whole tattoo thing. But anyway,
Oh yeah.
and
Let's
then
not get
like
into that.
he goes into McLaren, and I don't think the McLaren is also the McLaren car is not a Red Bull car. If
Yeah.
anything, it's more towards the Mercedes sort of
Mhm.
car,
Yeah.
like that.
Balance.
Yeah, that balanced philosophy and that aerodynamic philosophy. So
Mhm.
he's not in a car that suits him, where he can truly show that he can dive bomb and be really aggressive as a driver. And therefore, I think like he's so twitchy and nervous because he doesn't know how the car is gonna behave
Yeah.
every single time. But and I mean, I think it's unfortunate for Ricardo that he cannot get the performances, and then he's not in a car that suits him.
Yeah.
But then again, like that's also your
That
profession.
you're a driver, yeah.
Yeah, your profession is like you're a fucking Formula One driver. We give you the car, you just drive it, and
Mhm.
like you make sure that the car you can get the most out of the car, and that's what we pay you money for.
Yeah.
And he's just not doing that.
Yeah, that and I think that's what it comes down to. So I do think it has to do with the car. That it's just really maybe not his fit. Like he never figured out how to really make it work for him. I think if you put him in a different car, like with a different team, he could still probably be the number one driver of a different team. But this is not a good sign if you want to if you if you
If
still
you're
have dreams to be a world champion. I just don't
Yeah,
think that's gonna happen for him
yeah,
anymore.
because now it doesn't seem like he can. I think he went from Red Bull and he went down to Renault. And ever since he's been trying to climb his way back to a top team to show that he can fight for the championship. And you can say that Renault wasn't there and maybe McLaren was on the up and coming and therefore McLaren was better. So like, yeah, he goes there. But now that he's there, he just looks, his performances are so bad
Mhm.
that it's like, can I now see a Mercedes? Can I see a Red Bull? Can I see a Ferrari signing him for in the future so that he can be a number one driver and fight for the championship? It's like I don't see it happening.
Yeah, it's very questionable. I mean, and there's just also like all the new guys came in, the new talents. You know, the Russells, the Norrises, the
Yeah, he has to beat all of these people in like a slower car than the people that are winning races, and
yeah,
he has to show and demonstrate that he's able to perform just like him in order to keep climbing up to a Formula One championship, and it's just not happening.
yeah. It's unfortunately it's not. So so yeah, poor Ricardo. I mean, he's still probably the most charming of all the drivers and like the funniest and stuff.
Mhm.
And so he's like, I wouldn't want him to like leave Formula One, but and I think he's got at least another year with
With McLaren, I think so.
McLaren, right? Yeah,
I think
yeah, with which I think it should be good. I think it should be good for him because
I think he had 2 years, and that was from last year to that was his first year. So this is his second year. Does he? I don't
I
know when
I
his
thought he
contract
had
is up.
I thought he had one more, but yeah, no, because I think I don't know. I think I still appreciate him in the sport. It's just I don't know, unfortunate, really, really unfortunate. I think there were a few golden years where we really could have done it, really could have won championships, but you know,
Yeah, and
it's how it
I mean,
goes.
and I know that he did he win a race? Yeah, he won Monza last year, I think.
Yeah, that was the last one he won.
Yeah, I mean, but also like you can say like, oh, he won it, and I still think that he won it because Norris let him win,
Yes,
or
it
like
la-
they weren't gonna let the McLarens fight each other, and I think Norris. This is also something to appreciate about Lando Norris is like he knows that he's faster than Ricardo, but he's
Ricardo.
like, this is not my time. This is Ricardo's time, and I don't
That,
need to create this like environment in the team in the
mhm,
long run when I know that I'm faster and my time will come,
yeah.
you know?
No,
So
I think because I mean on that weekend I think Ricardo did out qualify Norris, but like I think by the end of the race you could tell that like Norris was just he could have passed him, like he could have just easily passed him, or at least fought for it. But he didn't. He was like, fine, I'll just hold on to second place, which was good. I mean, it was still a 1-2, and you know, didn't crush into each other. So yeah, it was probably worth it. But I did feel good about Ricardo. I feel like having that win there, it was important for him. And I think it's a good way. If it's his last win, which it may very well be, I think it was a really good win. Monza win, very good, very a signature track of F1 is you know one that you want. So it's good for him. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about which I mean, I don't know if I want to go too long into this topic, but it's Monaco as a track, whether I want it in the calendar
Mm,
still or not. And although I think that Monaco this year was a better race overall than Spain,
mhm.
the only reason that that happened was because it rained. Like
Yeah, yeah.
we saw a couple of overtakes. I think Gasly overtaking people like on the intermediates. That was
Yes.
exciting, but there was also some other overtakes. I think Russell did like a really good overtake, but they never showed that. They also never showed a replay of that, which we can get into like the TV direction all of that in a little bit.
Sure.
But like if you think about it, besides the two Gasly overtakes, what other overtake was there in the entire race?
Yeah, no. Uh, yeah, there weren't
I,
a lot of other, not even, I mean, and it was kind of, go on, sorry.
like it was an exciting race. Like you can see like Leclerc is winning, strategy is different, everybody's like it's exciting. Oh, when are they pitting? Is it gonna keep raining? Is it not gonna rain? There's a safety car, there's a red flag. They stop the track, then they start again. Even though there were no standing starts, we're still seeing like, oh, this was like an exciting race. It was packed with like a lot of action, a lot of things happen. And I'm like, but where did the excitement come from? It didn't come from the racing, you know? It came from like the weather conditions and
Yes.
the person that crashed and like the teams messing up the strategy. It didn't come from the track at all.
No.
Uh,
In fact, the truck was probably constantly holding up the race. uh, I don't know. It's a weird debate because, well, Monaco presents a challenge that, like, I feel like no other track really presents, which is that it's more of an endurance race than it is like a driving cars type of race.
yes.
Where it's like you jump in the car and, like, I mean, it's kind of like easy to take for granted, like, oh, they're just driving around this Monaco city, whatever. But it's like it's really difficult. Like what they're doing is like incredibly skillful, and they have to go fast, and they have to do it every single lap, right? So it's like that. I think is a challenge of Monaco. Why it was interesting, why it's appealing, is because it's like you have to be able to do that. The problem with that is that, and what Alonso so clearly demonstrated this race, is that you can literally be like 3 seconds of the pace, and people can still pass you if you just press the throttle on the start straight, like,
And the tunnel.
and the tunnel, right? And you need to do nothing else in the entire race. You could literally park it and go 3 seconds slower, and nobody can pass you. So I think in that sense, there needs to be something done, like, I don't know, maybe like a layout change, like, to make for passing opportunities more easily or something, because I think that's the issue. The track is still like challenging, and that's what it should be. It should be tight, it should be challenging, and all throughout. But like when the straight is like just like 20 fucking feet and nobody can fucking pass, like.
Yeah. And also you don't there's they don't put a DRS under the tunnel either,
Mhm.
because like the cars are also like I think it's for safety reasons, because the
Perhaps.
tunnel has like this really fast right hander
Mhm.
that like you don't want the cars to go too fast there. So like if you open up a DRS, like it's
You're going
just
to the wall.
yeah, it's just too much speed to carry on like a very tight circuit.
Yeah.
So like it just needs to be a little bit like longer. Just give me an extra 20 feet or I don't know, something like
An extra like 4 or 5 seconds of driving, or of like
yeah, like
straight.
like a straight, because the
Yes.
cars cannot outbrake. Like we always like and we said it I think last weekend, it's like the cars, even if you're faster than the car in front of you, like you're only fast by a couple like kilometers like per hour. And
Yes.
I know that like for the Americans, it's like kilometers per hour. What is that? So, but like you're faster, like 5 to 10 kilometers per hour faster than the car in front of you in
Yes.
Monaco.
Hmm.
And it's the equivalent of like about 5 miles an hour faster than the car in front of you.
Yeah.
And like 5 miles an hour, like you need such a long like
Straight for that.
like piece of track in order for that to be meaningful.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're just gonna you don't have enough room to like dive bomb the car. And I know we've seen it in previous years that like yes, it is possible, but I mean, I feel like this year is like even with like the new cars and the new regulations, like it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
I don't think we saw a single overtake at the tunnel, like at the chicane after the tunnel,
Yeah.
which is
There
the
was no.
most is the one spot in the entire racetrack where like an overtake can happen, or where it's most likely to happen.
Hmm.
And I don't think we saw a single overtake there in the entire race.
You know, I saw one overtake by Lance Stroll, which was probably more of a mistake than an actual overtake. I don't know if you actually saw it, but like, and I was seeing it on the dash cams at the end after the race, but like he literally on like on like the second, not on the last turn, but on the one before that, where like you go around like this and then you go back again.
Is it where Schumacher crashed?
No, the one after that, like, or like the set of turns after that.
Like the I think it's called the Rascas, like
I think so.
Rascas. Yeah,
Yeah.
right
He
before
like
the pit entry.
right. Yes, exactly that one.
Yeah,
He
Rascas.
literally like dive bomb onto Joe, and like he like almost lost the car, and like he like wobbled his way onto the front and then like just kept going. It was like the funniest thing. It would look like he almost lost the car and then he ended ahead. It was like the funniest pass, but I think that's as good as it got. I think as good as it got in passes, because the rest was like nothing. There was like no other passes. I think Joe might have lost a few positions by wobbling,
Joe.
but yeah, uh,
Joe.
Joe. Um, but um, but yeah, no. I mean, it's quite evident that like there is an issue with Monaco. That like I would never want it there not to be a Monaco Grand Prix though. I just think that something needs to be done. I something they have to get creative in some sort of way. Maybe like create more road or something. uh
Like
or
the
or
idea would be like give me more road before the tunnel, uh, or after the tunnel. Something that somebody can outbreak somebody else. But I think
yeah.
Monaco, like I think people already asked about that, and they're like, we're not gonna do any changes at least to the chicane after the tunnel. You're never gonna change that, no matter what you do. It's like it's always gonna be like that. And I'm like, okay.
Mm,
And then I think before the tunnel, I think they're building like there's some new development there. So there's no way that there's gonna be a track. So the only possible
mm,
situation is like where Stroll overtook Show in this race
mhm.
that you're mentioning.
Yeah.
They have to make that longer, like go deeper into the fucking streets of Monte Carlo and do
Yeah.
something.
Hmm.
But yeah,
I think that's the only solution. I mean, I don't know.
but
I
but don't
mean,
make it Singapore. Like just don't make the track longer for the sake of making it longer. Make it longer because people can
so
overtake
so
in
so
that
you can
new. Yeah,
yes, so there can be racing. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's ideally what you would want out of Monaco, because yeah, I mean, besides like they should try to do something. I mean, Monaco's entire economy runs on this fucking Grand Prix. I mean, it's a tiny country. It's like I think honestly, it's kind of a joke that it's an actual country. It really is not. It's more of a tax haven for the rich. And that's why they all live there, is because they don't pay taxes. Everybody, you heard it here first. They live there because they don't pay taxes. They don't want to pay your taxes. Anyways, I backtrack. Yes. Actually, the average, um, I think the average apartment in Monaco is like $4,000 per square feet. it's
Shit.
it's fucking it's like the wealthiest country per capita, and it's insane. It's only because people don't pay taxes, and it's also the reason why it's a country. It's because it's a joke. It's like a tiny a tiny place that like it shouldn't be a country. It's just
Yeah, a lot of Formula One drivers live in Monaco. Like
yeah
that's they make their that's where like they're gonna live.
yeah
Montoya lived in Monaco. I think Nico Rosberg lived in Monaco. If he doesn't live there still, uh, like
yeah
that's just their hometown, or like that's where they buy their property to live there.
yes, but contrary to common perception, is not because it's a historically amazing thing for Formula One. I mean, yes, but it's because of the taxes. That's a little bit. But in any case, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. All right. Now we're gonna get to the point that everybody wanted to listen to.
To hear about.
This is it. We need to call this section something. Like I don't know, shitting on the FIA.
The thing that
like,
grinds my gears.
yeah, Formula One or FIA feedback or FIA something. We need to come up with something creative.
Some clever thing. We'll think about it.
Like this just needs to be like its own section every fucking weekend. Now, like, you know, it's the sport is so good, and like I can name any other sport. Like if I watch basketball, I'm like, oh wow, watching basketball is amazing. I never think of the people that run basketball as like, who are they as an entity. I don't think of them. I'm just
right.
watching the sport, right? If I watch American football, I'm watching a game, and I never think of like the people that are running the game. I'm just watching the sport. And
Correct.
same with baseball. Although in baseball you have the umpires.
The umpires will interfere a lot.
Yeah,
And people hate that. I hate that about baseball, but yes.
yeah. Then there's also soccer, which also has FIFA, which, you know, it's not always clear. But in Formula One, every weekend there's a story about the people that run the fucking sport. The FIA just is that now this ever like this omniscient, how do you say it?
Omnipotent?
Omnipresent.
Omnipresent, sure.
Yeah, like they're always there. Like now they're just like this omnipresent entity. Every single weekend we're talking about the fucking FIA, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about this fucking entity. I would just want to watch the sport. Yeah. Why does it always have to exist? Like, I know that you exist, but you're not supposed to be important. You're just supposed to run the game.
Exactly. You're supposed to be it's like the referees. They're supposed to be there to just sort of keep the rules in check, but they're not supposed to like make up the rules in the middle of the game. Like they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to be like, you know what? In this situation, I'm not gonna call that a penalty. I'm not gonna do it. Just you know, too many variables. I don't think so. It's like this every fucking weekend. I mean, this weekend was actually kind of interesting because I was watching it with my girlfriend, and she turned to me and she was like, you know, it's kind of funny, but like I don't understand, why does Formula One always have like these funky rules? And I was just like, I know, right? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like this shouldn't happen. Like the whole every weekend feels like an arbitrary set of like new things. It's like, oh, every other time this was supposed to be a penalty for whatever reason, like clear penalty, but for this time they're making an excuse or they're making some sort of exception, and it's like, but why? Like it's constant interference in like moments where like there's precedent, but at the same time there's no clarity, and it leaves you really feeling like okay, like we need to establish now what the sport is first. Like we need to establish down the rules first so that everybody can play with them, like in an American football type of way, where like everybody understands that it's a complex game, it's a complicated game, but everybody understands the fucking rules, right? And if there's a rule down, you follow the rule.
Yeah.
And
And
that's what
like
it
in
is.
a sport as complex as American football is not an easy sport
It's not
for
easy.
anybody to understand. And it has so many rules and so many nuances. Like
Yes.
if you catch the ball, if the knee touch the ground, if you had possession, if like there's all these crazy things.
Mhm.
And no matter what, the people that watch American football, they understand everything that happens there.
Every
And
single one.
every time that there's a rule or like a call that needs to be made, they do the slow motion and they look at all of the angles and they determine based on the rules, we all know what that call is going to be. Even the audience knows what the call is going to
The
be.
audience, the announcers, they're kind of like they bring in the experts and they're like, look here, like his
Yeah.
leg touched the ground before the ball was out of his hands. That's a
And then
bound ball, whatever.
yeah, and then when the announcers are also saying like this is gonna be this rule, they're educating the people at home, and I appreciate it. And I'm like, oh, now I learned that new thing about the sport and the reason why the ruling was this as opposed to this other thing. Because in this specific occasion, there was this little nuance that changed the rules, and like you appreciate that from the announcers and the commentators while you're watching the sport. But in Formula One, it's actually, I think the announcers are even like probably told by the FIA like or by Formula One like you cannot shed on our sport. You cannot say like, oh, that's a penalty for sure, and then complain that it wasn't a penalty. Like I think the announcements probably get like, you cannot say that about our sport. And I'm like, why? That's a thing on every other sport, but Formula One just doesn't like to look bad. They just switch the rules back and forth, and they just don't want to look bad. And then the announcers are also like now afraid of educating the viewer when they shouldn't be. They should let us know what's going on. That's why they're there for.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was an occasion this weekend, and there's a few incidents that we can discuss, but there was an occasion where like Martin Brundle was trying to explain the rules about like if the race goes up by so many hours, like you cannot broadcast it for so long, so it needs to end. But by when he finished saying that, he was like, at least that's according to the rules. At least that's what the rules say.
Yes.
Who knows what the FIA is going to do? Because that's how we all feel. It's like, oh, you know what, the FIA, the race is supposed to end, but I wouldn't have been surprised if the FIA would have been like, no, we're finishing this race. And like that's what have happened. I would have been like, well, I guess that's just what we're doing this weekend because that's what they said that we can do. These people apparently can decide whatever they want.
Yeah, so they can change the rules in the middle of the fucking race. And we're all supposed to like, I guess that's what they do now. Like that was a clear example. Like, don't tell me that if you're a Formula One fan and you were watching the race, that you knew for a fact that the race had to end within 2 hours. Like we all knew that, us as viewers, because in Spa last year, it went for this whole fiasco of a race. Yeah. And so this year we knew that we're coming with brand new rules that the race, once it begins, there's a 2-hour clock that it will just run down. And when that 2-hour clock is down, the race is over no matter what. We all know that. But don't tell me that now that even though you knew that you knew for sure that the FIA was gonna follow that rule. Like you were probably like, are they gonna follow that rule? Or well, there's probably like just 10 more laps after that. So so the FIA was probably like, oh, we can probably finish the race without hitting that 2-hour mark. Like I thought like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I really don't know.
I was like, I don't know. And then they put the timer and I was like, okay, I guess they're sticking to the timer. So I guess that's a good thing. Like it felt weird actually that we were saying like consistent with the rules. I was like, oh, they're actually gonna enforce the rule. Okay, that's something. That's interesting. But
then on that same aspect, like, okay, you follow that rule, that's there. And then you have other rules that are just a shit show. Well, so like
before that, another thing that like stood out about the race timer was that like the race started and nobody knew that it had started. That was so strange. Even the
it started on their safety car conditions.
Yeah, the announcers were like going like, okay, so now they're cleaning the thing, and then also you see like lap 2 out of like 70, 77 or 78, and they were like, oh, it looks like the race has started. And then like you heard Crofty like start using like his actual like race voice to like direct the race, but like it's kind of like, no, nobody knew that the race was starting. I thought we were just doing
Yeah,
like laps around to clean the track a little bit.
yeah,
We never got told that. The announcers didn't even know that, and then it was like, okay, now it's starting, and then I guess that this is when the timer also starts because the race now is going too long. It really strange stuff.
yeah, yeah. I didn't realize that, but yeah, I remember that the race started and we were on lap 2, and it's like, oh, the race started. No, and I'm like, the race started, and I'm like, everybody shut up! I'm trying to listen to this race. Like they
Yes.
just started, and then I'm like, what are the commentators saying? How come they didn't tell us? How come I didn't know that the race
How
started?
come? How come? Like it's a race. It's the most exciting part of the fucking race.
Yeah, like and then also like, oh, so there's no standing start, I guess. Like,
Yes.
and I'm like, okay, so now I gotta pay attention. When is the safety car? And I'm like, how does this happen? Uh, and then like also like it gets delayed. So apparently, first of all, the race didn't start on time, and the reason was because apparently there was a power outage, and then they couldn't do the standing procedure with the lights off, the
Off.
lights out.
Oh, okay.
So apparently they couldn't do that, and therefore they had to delay the race. But also by the time they delayed it, the rain was coming, so
Way
they
worse.
delayed
Yeah.
it even further.
Hmm.
But that's a rumor that hasn't been confirmed by anybody.
Yeah.
Like that's like some I saw that online, and I'm like, but was that confirmed? Like nobody knows.
That well, they didn't say
Like
that in the race because the
they
announcers in
like
the race
the announcers didn't say it.
didn't know
The
that. No.
the press didn't say it. Like no, there's no actual like the standing start procedure has been canceled because there's a power outage, so we have to delay it. And I'm like, if you tell me that, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I understand there's powers outside of your control that will delay a race. I'm probably going to be upset, but I understand that it's not your fault. You
Mhm.
cannot predict if there's a power outage in an entire country. If it happened, we don't know if it happened.
Yeah.
But the fact that you don't say it, assuming that it happened, that you don't say it, like how do you have the FIA race directors not communicate with the entire audience? It's like they're not watching the sport that they are running. How can this happen? I'm so confused at home the whole time, and it's only because how much knowledge I have of Formula One that I'm the one that has to put the puzzles together.
I know. Like the I guess another one of the incidents that happened through the race was after the red flag. Um, After the race restarted, it's kind of like the announcers and I myself thought it's like, oh, this is gonna be a standing start. At least Leclerc's gonna get another chance. This, we
It's
might get
gonna be
some
exciting because we didn't get it at the beginning of the race.
exactly, and then it's like, no, we're gonna do a rolling start, and it's kind of like even the announcer was like, I thought we were like, it's dry, like there is not raining. There, like I thought like the rule was that like you're supposed to start on a rolling start when it's raining or when like the conditions don't like
Yeah, when
suit.
it's too dangerous. Yeah.
Right, exactly. If the track is wet, I mean, like if there's just one racing line, that I didn't think that was sufficient for them to have to do a rolling start. I was like, no, well, there's just gonna be a part of the track that's dry and
Yep.
another part that's like less dry. But that's what it is. It's the rule. You're supposed to follow that. Why didn't they follow that? They just know they decided to waive it. No, we're gonna do a rolling start because we feel like doing a rolling start today.
Yep.
Because we're making this judgment on the moment, and it's like you don't know, you kind of you're the race director. Just follow what the fucking rules say, and then yeah, I don't know if you I mean if you're gonna do that, and then the DRS was the other thing. It's like
Oh, the
when did
DRS didn't open like.
until like halfway through the race, and I'm just like, what is the fucking rule with the DRS? Like, I mean, I
Yep.
understand, like, it's still difficult. It's Monaco. It's still probably not gonna be any passing, but like, when are you supposed to open the fucking thing? When are you supposed to open the fucking thing? Because as I see it, you just decided to open it at some random lap.
Yep.
Like,
I mean, the way that I understand it, and I don't know what says in the rules. I think it's like if it's a dry race, DRS it's
should
enabled.
be open. Yes.
So like if we go by those rules, And now it's us trying to put the pieces together, right? Because the FIA is just so inconsistent. And that we have now to fucking figure it out on ourselves. If you have a dry race and it begins, I think there's 2 laps before
2 laps.
DRS is enabled.
Correct.
So
Yes.
let's go by those. Like the race begins, it's a dry race, 2 laps, DRS is enabled.
Yeah.
So there's a point in the race where you have to make a judgment. The race is now a dry race. There's in 2 laps, DRS will be enabled.
Correct.
Like, give me that announcement. But I can see that it's a dry race for a long time now. It's been 5-6 laps. And I'm like, where's the DRS? It's been a dry race for a while now. Why is it not on? Tell me the reason. Like, when is the lap that you determine that this race became a dry race? Like, you're supposed to be on top of that. That's your job.
And like most cars have dry tires. They came out of the red flag with dry tires. They're driving like at normal paces. Why aren't you activating the DRS? I mean, I understand like okay, so you activate the DRS, the driver is gonna go into maybe a wetter side of the track, and they're probably gonna slide around a little bit. But like that's what you're supposed to do with the DRS. Like you're supposed to try to like make passes. Sure, it's not gonna work. If it doesn't work, well, it doesn't work. But like drivers know that. Drivers, I mean, like they know,
like they know that that's a risk that they're taking if they're gonna go for that move.
Correct. And eventually the other side will start drying out too if people are using the DRS. So I'm like, you know, in the game, and I hate to keep bringing it up, but in the game it's pretty straightforward. If the race gets dry and you know people switch to like the dry compounds, in 2 laps it like boop, the DRS is back on, and that's it. It's pretty straightforward. I don't know why they have to keep like holding it back, like as if like there's some sort of like exceptions for like how we feel about the state of the track. It's kind of like, no, it's like, what are the cars doing, and just activate it. Like I don't see what the big deal is. But anyways, sorry.
Yeah, so it's just like, I mean, issue after issue. We can talk about the next one that is also bothers me, is like Verstappen crossing the pit line, the pit lane line, whatever. It's like Verstappen comes out of the pit lane, and then he drives over the yellow line, and every Formula One fan that knows the rules know like that's a 5-second penalty.
That's a penalty right there, easy.
He went over the pit, like it's like probably one of the first rules in Formula One that you learn when like you're watching the sport. You cannot cross that yellow line coming out of the pits. It's part of the rules. We all know it.
For no reason, you can do that. It's the easiest penalty you ever like get taught. Yeah,
like we all know, if you play the game and you go over that line, you'll get a penalty
immediately.
It's very clear, and I'm telling you, like I think this was one of the first rules I learned when I watched Formula One, and it's kind of exciting to know, because once you know it,
you always
you're always like, oh, did that guy touch it? Did that guy fucking went over the line? And like it makes you feel like you're part, like you're a fan of the sport now. It's like, I know something about the sport that you're always now looking out for, and it feels good to know. And in this case, you see Verstappen going over the line, and there's no penalty.
It didn't even get noted as an incident. Didn't even get noted.
They noted it on Perez. It's like Perez incident out of the pit lanes noted, and I'm like, the fuck? Did Perez also go over the pit lane? And I'm like, what is going on?
It's like, why? Like, what happened? Like, explain to the announcers were saying it, like Verstappen went over, and then they played the replay like 2 times as if the camera director is like, FIA, look at what happened. Look at this happen. Do something. And it's like, they don't do anything. I mean, it's like, I understand that like Verstappen is like the championship leader. You don't want to influence those results, but he's on third. And Leclerc is in fourth. Like this 5-second penalty really matters, and like the rules are fucking obvious on this type of shit. It doesn't matter what what the dynamics of the racers are, you still have to enforce the rules. And they didn't. And then Ferrari appealed it after the race, and they didn't grant it to them.
Oh,
You know,
they protested it.
yeah, and signing some sort of like, memo or discussion that they had with the drivers at the beginning of the weekend. And it's kind of like, why are discussions at the beginning of the weekend overruling the actual rules? I just don't get that. It's so bizarre to me that, like, what at the beginning of every race are we gonna get told now what the rules are gonna be, and what the rules, like, what rules don't count anymore? Like, what is going on? Like, this is putting like some serious like doubt on like what the consistency of the sport. I mean, they're getting so many viewers nowadays, and they can't, to fucking save their lives, just keep the rules consistent. They can't tell you, like, the announcers are shy and afraid of telling you what the rules are, because all of a sudden
They don't know if they're gonna be enforced. Yeah,
right.
If the announcers say like that's a penalty, and Martin Brundle is so knowledgeable about the sport.
Yes.
Like incredibly knowledgeable, and if he is afraid of saying like that's a penalty, like when he says it, it's like I know what I saw, and that should be a penalty. And I'm like, say it with confidence. We all know that should be a penalty, but now he's afraid of saying it because if there's no penalty that occurs, like you're saying, he's gonna look like a fool. Yeah. People are gonna be like, he said it was a penalty and it wasn't. That guy must not know what he's talking about.
Exactly, and maybe makes the sport look bad, but the sport should look bad. It actually already looks bad. It confuses people. It shouldn't confuse people. It confuses fans that have been watching this shit like for forever. People. You want your fans to pay attention to the rules and to be engaged and to like think critically about what's happening in the race, because that's the fun part of the sport. I just don't understand why they're constantly betraying the fans and the announcers and the rules by changing all of these things.
Yeah.
Like, just I mean, I heard you say it because it's so simple, but it's like, just follow the fucking rules. Do what it's in the goddamn book that you have for the rules, and do what it says there. It doesn't matter who's winning. Just do it,
Yeah. For that specific penalty, they said like, and this is like a fucking gray line, and there cannot be these gray lines in the rules. It's like, it says that like you're not allowed to go over the yellow line, but like another part, I think one of the rules says like your car must stay at the right hand side of the yellow line at all times, right? But then another rule says that the car like must not go over it. And then like, because the tire from Verstappen didn't go fully over the line, like it didn't fully cross it, then it's not a penalty.
Like, that's
and
so
like,
fucking stupid.
And then I'm like, this is such a stupid loophole, because now you set up a precedent that every fucking race from now until the end of the season, people can just put their car on top of the yellow line and they're not gonna get a penalty.
That they're just gonna step over it.
Yeah,
because now that's something they can account for.
Yeah, and then like you start, it just makes your fucking sport look like such a clown show every single time. And like I just wish that the drivers would all get into like a group, like a union amongst themselves, and be like, let's fucking exploit the rules every fucking weekend until they like, just so we show how ridiculous their fucking sport is. And that's what like Alonso should do, just like fucking like.
And you're gonna tell me that if Guanyu or Guanyu, or if Yuki Tsunoda had done that like he would have gotten away with it? I just don't think so. Yeah, I just don't think so. I think they see that and they're like, oh, easy, like 5-second penalty. All right, and so sorry, Yuki. I guess you just couldn't keep it in the lines, right?
Yeah.
But Verstappen couldn't keep it in the lines. Why are we making exceptions here?
Yeah, and then like, and then it's not just against Verstappen. In Saudi Arabia, Leclerc did the same shit, but like not coming out, but like coming in. He was going over the pit lane entry every single fucking lap, like for 3 or 4 laps. Leclerc just kept going over the fucking pit lane entry, and then he's not getting a penalty for it. That should have been like 20-second penalty, like 5 seconds every time that he infringed that. And then he's not being punished, not even a warning. And I'm like, just like you're setting a very bad precedent where like you're nitpicking who gets a penalty and who doesn't, because you're afraid of like getting involved into like the people fighting for the championship.
Yeah. And like Verstappen even was calling it out on that time too. Like
Yeah,
he was,
and people like criticize Verstappen and say, "Oh, he's been a baby about like." Now, like, bro, there's somebody fucking cheating, and you're seeing it every lap.
Those are the rules.
And like everybody knows the rules. And why is he getting away with that? Like,
yeah,
like what is the reasoning? What and to this day, I don't know what if the FIA ever said like, "Well, no, we just allowed it."
No,
that's just a thing.
And then what's gonna happen the next race is that they're gonna come out and say like, okay, so review it. You're not allowed to go over the line anymore. And it's kind of like, oh, now you're clarifying that. Now all of a sudden you're clarifying it, but like Verstappen didn't get a penalty, so it doesn't really matter anymore, does it, you fuckers? Like, like you need to fucking. I mean, you need to address it as it happens, so like the president is not said. We can't have like this like one-time fixes every single weekend as as we get along. We just, I mean, that's not how it works.
I mean, I understand, for example, yeah, you're afraid that you're gonna influence the championship fight, but you know how you get rid of that fucking problem? If you stick to the rules, and now all the drivers know that they shouldn't do that. Even like the championship contenders, not like I shouldn't do that because I'm gonna fucking get a penalty. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I'm not gonna do this shit.
Yeah.
And then you will never have to interfere in a championship fight about the rules because the drivers will be obeying the rules every single time.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So,
and if they break the rules, they know it's their fault. Like, for example, if you give Leclerc a warning after he goes over the pit lane, then he knows that he's not supposed to do that. If you give Verstappen a penalty for touching the line, well, obviously he's not supposed to do that. And this is something that like drivers know. Like when they do something like this, that they fucked up. If they don't lift the throttle when there's a yellow flag, they get a penalty. All of these things. I mean, like, come on. Like, I mean, we've been talking about it for weeks now. That like, and it seems just to keep getting worse. Just more random arbitrary rules every weekend. I guess another one that we can quickly go over is the one with Hamilton and Ocon.
Oh, Hamilton and Ocon.
Like, yeah. Ocon got a 5-second penalty for that, and like, it's really bizarre.
Yeah, at least for the incident we saw. I don't know if they had another incident that we didn't see, and that's why he got it. But it was like Hamilton was going for an overtake that wasn't there,
right?
And Ocon turned into him, and Ocon gets the penalty. How? Like, we've had it previously. I think that, and this time was when Stroll turned into somebody. Who was it? I think an Albon, and that Albon was the one that got the penalty for being there. Same with Mick Schumacher. Like, he's the one causing the accident with Vettel. And like, you don't penalize Vettel, like, you don't penalize Ocon, but I don't know why they did it this fucking time. And I think it was Hamilton's fault.
I also kind of think so too. I think Hamilton was in the wrong spot, and I say it's questionable. I think he could have left him a little bit more space, but at the end of the day, it's just, it seems like 5-second penalty for them is kind of disturbing. It's just, I don't know, maybe not the rule that should be there. But anyways, that's it with the FIA complaints, man.
All right. So now we got to the last part of the podcast. We do the Formula One Championship after letting some steam out.
Yeah, after letting it out. Although this one is gonna be tricky. Like Monaco, well, there's just not like a lot of chances for drivers to really show what they can do throughout the race, except to see how good they can follow somebody. But we'll try. We'll give it a shot.
Okay. So let's start with Max Verstappen.
Oh, actually, I don't know. I'm gonna give him a 3.5. I feel like but he wasn't there entire week. I actually it's kind of interesting. He just kind of ended up in the same position that he started and like was not even in practices he was not the fastest versus Perez always seemed to have the edge. So I'm gonna give him a 3.5. Solid weekend, but it feels like oddly enough it was one of the less interesting Verstappen weekends.
Yeah. All right, let's go with Sergio Perez.
Sergio probably I'm gonna give him a 4 to be kind. I mean he did go faster than Verstappen, which is impressive enough.
He did win the
Uh,
race.
he won the race, but like I think it ultimately comes down to like I don't think he managed his tires particularly well. He crashed in qualifying and ruined everybody else's qualifying, including Leclerc's.
I think the strategy definitely favored him. I think he
Mhm.
got really lucky. And four, I don't know. People are probably gonna disagree here because he won the race. He beat Verstappen on the weekend, but like we say this like the same. Like if it would have been any other track that was in Monaco where you can
Mhm.
actually overtake, Perez wouldn't have won the race.
Right, he would have gotten past for sure.
So so if you tell me, if anybody out there is listening that tells me like no, Perez would have actually defended, and Perez is really good at defending. If you honestly think that Perez, if it would have been any other race, that he would have won it, we're gonna give him a higher than a 4.
Right.
But I think that a 4, based on the performances he's had, I think is what it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
objectively.
And I think the point of the championship is not so much to like give the winning car the most points. It's to with the car that you have. I mean, at least this is my eyes. It's like with the car that you
Yes,
have, like how good of a driver are you? I'm like, that's what we're rating. We're rating whether like you are you as good of a driver or are you just in a good car? And so in my head, I'm trying to strip away the car and see like how well did the driver do. And in reality, I mean, I think a 4 is generous. I think he literally drove in Monaco and nobody could pass it. So, so yeah, I mean, he won the
yeah,
race. Props for him. Defended okay, but like it's Monaco. So,
right. So now we go Leclerc.
I don't know. Very heartbreaking. I'm gonna give him a 4.5. Actually,
I
I
think
would I
it
would
could be in contention with like a 5.
it could be in contention for a 5. I would agree with that. And I think honestly, the reason will be is because even after all the fuckery, I mean, even after the red flag, he got out of the car and like he was fuming. You could tell he just came back and drove the race that he had to drive. He just literally stayed behind Verstappen and just kept there.
Yep.
Like,
Just waiting. Is there a mistake gonna be made?
yeah,
Can I push? Like
he
he
didn't.
didn't go like what happened in Imola,
Yeah,
that he just fucking, I'm gonna
I'm
do a
gonna
crazy move here
go
and
ham or something.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
he did what he needed to do.
yeah,
I think it's a 5, but I know that hindsight,
yeah.
you never know what could happen, etc.
He got messed up
four
by his team. Maybe you could say that like he could have strategized, like Sainz tried to strategize or something. But I think that's all,
actually,
fluff.
I think it's a 5, me personally.
You think it's a 5? I could go with a 5.
I don't think there's anything different that he could have done in that car that, like, he drove the best car possible.
And he
Like
was
the,
6 seconds ahead at a point. Yeah, I could stand behind a 5.
okay, with that we go now to Sainz.
Sainz did pretty good too. Not gonna lie, he didn't outrace Leclerc, but he was there in the spots that he was supposed to be there. Could have won the race had it not been for that incident with Latifi, and for once managed to. Well, I mean, it's Monaco, but he managed to keep Verstappen behind. So I'm gonna give him a 4.5, not a 5, because he obviously didn't go as fast as Leclerc, but 4.5.
I'm gonna go with a left field here. Bottas.
What does it good, if I remember correctly? No, he was behind the entire field that got stuck behind
Yeah,
Alonso, what wasn't he? But he still
he
got
was
points
he
at
was
the end.
behind Hamilton.
Um, I think fine. Yeah, I think he qualified pretty good too. I'm gonna give him a probably a 4.
I mean, just the whole Alonso train is hard to judge.
Yeah, again, this is why I said at the beginning. It's kind of weird because it's Monaco. Like, yeah, so it's kind of more of a qualifying performance than anything.
All right, Joe.
He did pretty bad. I'm gonna give him a 2.5. He was like sliding all over. Actually, I could consider giving him a 3 because he didn't crash, and that's commendable. But for a rookie, but 2.5, 2.5. He really
Yeah,
was wobbly all over.
we had the save that he got outside of the tunnel. It's like whoa, and I'm like, oh shit.
Oh my god! I swear to God, like that looks so bad. It looked kind of like that Sainz one, where like Sainz was really close to
Yeah.
Perez, and he tried to make a pass, and he went like sideways. You're like, ah. I thought that was Leclerc for a second. I was like, oh my god, and then it wasn't. I was like, okay, it's just Sainz. But anyways, like it was crazy. Uh, like the guy almost flew off the track. But yeah, it was similar to
Yeah.
the other one.
I think he shit himself. After that, he's like, never mind. I'm just gonna stick to this
I'm,
position.
I'm just this is good enough.
Yeah. He's like, what did he end? I think he ended 16.
Yeah,
He's like,
16.
yeah, 16. He's like, I'm not gonna go crazy for 15th place over here. It's
Yeah.
okay.
No.
All right, let's go with Russell.
Oh, no, Mick. Wait. Oh no,
We
no,
did
no.
Bottas
I
and
was thinking
Joe.
Has. Russell, good performance, and he ended up passing Norris on some lucky like pit stuff that wasn't really shown on TV, but I saw afterwards.
Yeah.
Um, so a solid performance. I mean, he did what he needed to do. He out qualified Hamilton.
Yeah, bro. Russell has been so consistent.
Very consistent. Yeah.
Like he's been top five in the top five every fucking race
Every
this
single
year.
race. Yeah.
Just like consistently getting the result and the best he can out of the car. I think that in some weekends Hamilton has gotten the best out of the Mercedes than
Mhm.
Russell, but Russell for the most part has just been consistently there. Just
Yeah.
consistent performance, and you know that he's driving that car the best that he can. I don't know. I don't think that's the best that Mercedes could be driven. I think Hamilton has gotten better performances out of the Mercedes,
Mhm.
but I think Russell overall has been more consistent than Hamilton
Yeah.
so far.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, he's ahead in the championship. He's ahead of Sainz in the championship, which is like surprising. Like that's the whole thing that we talk about being consistent. If you're just there every weekend, yeah, you're like in 5th place every weekend, but it adds up, and other people makes mistakes, people whatever, don't finish races, and also you still technically in contention for the championship.
Yeah,
That but like
as we talked about several times, the Formula One point system is very skewed towards the people that win.
yeah,
To the point that like if you win a race, like it's
you
very
you,
likely
you
that
get very far ahead.
yeah, you get very far ahead in the championship. It's very hard for you to lose that position.
Mhm.
So it doesn't reward people like George Russell that is just consistently there,
Yeah.
like racking up points, and then when like these people go like out of contention, that he can just sneak into first position just by
Yeah.
being consistently in like a good position.
Mhm.
And that's unfortunate. I do want to see like the sport more in that aspect, but
Yeah, like more equitable points, I would say.
yeah.
Yeah,
But so
but
what's the score for
I'm
Russell?
gonna give him a 4.5, maybe even a 5. I mean, if you really want to be generous, but I think 4.5 is good.
I
I
think 4.5 is good. Although I think an argument for 5 could also be made.
Yeah, and I think well, yeah, I also have it.
Yeah. All right, Hamilton.
Hamilton, weird. It's a weird weekend for him because he couldn't qualify Russell, and then he got stuck behind Alonso. He also crashed into Ocon, which we were just talking about. But what I will say about that is that I feel like I don't know if the penalty was right, but I do think Ocon didn't leave him enough space, and he kind of did close in on him. Enough that like they made contact, but it's still I don't know what Hamilton was trying to really accomplish there. There was never a passing opportunity, so I'm gonna give him a is it 3 or a 3.5? Not really sure which.
I could say like a 3.
I
don't-
think a 3. And it's closer to a 3. I agree.
Okay. Let's go another left field over here. Let's go Alex Albon.
Albon, who at some point in qualifying it looked like he was gonna go really quick and like he could do it, and then it just didn't happen. And then
Yeah.
and then he just got stuck on like 16 plays, and then nothing happened after that. I don't know. I'm gonna give him a 3 as well. I don't think he did badly. He didn't finish the race either, and I don't think he
Yeah.
was having like a particularly good or bad weekend. He just didn't finish. So 3.
Latifi.
Well, he stayed in track, and he didn't have. Oh well, he did block. He did block signs. Huge bummer. I don't know. I feel like the consequence of that was a little bit more than like the incident itself. So I'm probably gonna give him a 2.5, just like below average. Nothing impressive, nothing bad. Finish the race. That's it.
Okay. Let's go with Kevin Magnussen.
K-Mag didn't finish, and I
Yeah,
thought
I didn't even know that Magnussen was out of the race until Schumacher crashed.
it was so weird because you see Schumacher crashing, and then you see Magnussen just standing like this next to it, and you're like,
And I'm like, wait, is
like
Magnussen
what?
out of the car crashing? Wait, what just
Yeah.
happened?
Did he crash against Magnussen, or like what happened? Why is Magnussen standing next to it? And he already has his uniform off and everything.
Yeah.
It was very
I'm like,
confusing.
am I watching this in the future? Did this crash happen many laps ago? And Magnussen is already out of the car?
Yeah,
It, it was really weird.
he looked a little angry too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just gonna give him a 3. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I also don't remember seeing him. He did. What was his qualifying position? Did he get to Q3 or not? No, he got to P11 on the qualifying, I think. So no, I'm gonna give him a 3, maybe 3.5. 3 is fine.
All right. Now Mick Schumacher.
Well, he crashed out on his own fault, and he didn't qualify Magnussen. 1.5.
Okay, let's go now with Lando Norris.
That is pretty good, actually. I mean, he seems to be driving that as good as he can, that car. He did lose that spot to Russell. I'm gonna give him a 4. Solid enough, good enough.
Daniel Ricciardo.
He wasn't even close to getting points, but then again, he's also stuck behind things. Didn't seem like a weekend where he could really show off what he could do anyway. So I don't know.
Bro, he's won Monaco before.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a 2 because it is a little disappointing.
Poor Danny Rick.
Yeah.
Esteban Ocon.
Ocon, aside from that incident with Hamilton, I mean, he did pretty good. I think he ended the race on 9. I think he was behind Hamilton at the end.
But he got a 5-second penalty.
But the penalty fucked him up. So I don't know, probably like a 2. No, a 3. A 3 is good enough.
Alonso.
A 3.5. Because he was not showing off being a good driver. They just saw him like sitting there, parking in the middle.
And not even like Alonso was kind of the responsible one for fucking up Ocon.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah, Alonso's like, okay, I'm just gonna end the race here. I just gotta save my tires and not risk anything. And he was really saving his tires.
It was
God. And to the point that like he just didn't care about Ocon. And the team
Yuki,
didn't tell him anything. Even the commentators are saying that he's messing up Ocon. And I can't believe that the team is not telling Alonso to like,
go faster.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's go faster. And I think even if they told him, Alonso's like, yeah, not my fault that Ocon has a 5-second penalty. I'm sorry. He was just like
Yeah.
doing his race. He didn't care. Not
Yeah,
playing
but
the team game, but still.
no, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna give him 3.5. I mean, he finished in the points and he, good points any other weekend. So, there's that, but not particularly driving that I like to see.
Yeah. What about Yuki? Yuki Tsunoda.
Yuki did pretty bad. I'm gonna give him a 2.
Yeah.
No, I mean there are multiple times he had to go on the runoff area, which is
Oh,
good.
dude. Yeah, he kept going off. Yeah.
Yeah, every time you see like a random yellow flag, you're like, oh shit, something happened. It's like, no, just
Yeah.
Yuki Tsunoda went off again. So no, I'm gonna give him a 2. He also couldn't bring in the points. I think he ended last on that.
Yeah, I think he was like 17
Yeah, which is surprising. Like you have to try extra hard to finish
to be
behind
last.
Latifi. So no, yeah, no, it was a very bad weekend from him, unfortunately.
Yeah. What
I
about
didn't crash
Gasly?
though. Gasly ended up with points. No, oh no, he just outside the points. But he was driving fine. No remarkable incidents or anything. I'm gonna give him a 3.
All right. And then Vettel.
Vettel ended with a point, ended ahead of Stroll, and I think he might have even had a pass somewhere in there, like some sneaky pass.
If they showed it, no, if it happened, they didn't show it. I don't think. They were like 2 overtakes.
I think I saw it after the thing that he might have had like a sneaky pass. I could be wrong. I'm still gonna give him a 3.5. I think that's pretty good.
And Stroll.
Stroll, even though he had that wobbly, funny pass, he didn't really impress. He didn't do anything. And he ended up like outside the points. I'm gonna give him a 3. Nothing impressive.
Okay. So with that in mind, you have Leclerc is the only one with a 5. So Leclerc would win here.
Okay.
Then you have 2 people tied for second place, which is Russell and Sainz.
I'm gonna give it to Russell then Sainz. Actually, I don't know. No, I think Sainz was actually a little bit better.
Better than Russell?
Yeah, I think he. Talking about consistency, I think he was a little bit more there where he needed to be in terms of pace and stuff. Whereas it's kind of hard to tell with Russell. He just kind of passed Lando. But I think Sainz played it correctly this weekend.
Okay, then you got 3 people for the next, which are Bottas, Perez, and Norris.
All right, let's give it to Perez first. Why not? He won the race. Probably then, yeah, Norris and then Bottas. I think that's fine.
Okay. And then, so you got 6. Now let's see for 7th place. You got a 3-way tie between Verstappen, Alonso, and Vettel.
But let's see. You know what? Actually, it's kind of funny, but Verstappen was actually catching up. At the end, there was actually a few scenarios where I could be like, oh, Verstappen could win this race if things go south for Perez or something. I'm gonna give it to Verstappen first, then Alonso, and then Vettel. I think that's fine.
Okay, and then for the last place in the top 10, you got 5 drivers. So okay, pick one out of these.
All right.
Albon, Magnussen. Oh, you have 6 drivers. Albon, Magnussen, Ocon, Hamilton, Gasly, and Stroll.
guess I think I'm just gonna give it to Hamilton. There no, it's just track position, and it's not. I mean, he was kind of just stuck behind Alonso. Not much he could do
Yeah.
there. Uh, he didn't perform better than Russell, but he still got good points. Yeah, I think Hamilton can get it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's it. Any last thoughts?
No, excited for Baku for sure. That it's one of my favorite tracks, if not my favorite. Um,
It's a pretty good track.
yeah, actually from the moment that I started playing the games again, the moment that I started playing Azerbaijan, I was like, oh, this is a really interesting track. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of right corners and stuff, but even then, like still need to have a lot of like balance in your car. There's a lot of slow corners, and then that castle section is just so cool. I don't know. It's a very cool track. A
Yeah,
very
I think it's a really good, like when it comes to a street circuit, they did it right. Like
yeah.
the balance, like I know there's a lot of 90-degree turns, which is not like the greatest for racing,
Mhm.
but like for some reason in this track it works. The
It works well.
balance of the track is so nice where like even there's a street circuit, you need a lot of downforce, but there's a giant straight at the end
Yeah.
where like you're like, okay, I don't need any downforce here. And so like really making the decision as to how you want to set up your car, it's like it plays such a good role in the entire track. So the
Yeah.
track is really, it's really well made.
Yeah, and what is really cool about it, or like what is really interesting about it, which I've always said it from the moment that I started playing, is that, like if you want to go faster in Baku, you just have to get closer to the walls. Like so, like you're literally always right in the edge of touching the walls because that's the only way in which you can go faster. So like I think that presents a really interesting challenge for the drivers, where it's like similar to Monaco, but like in a better way. Because in Monaco,
Yeah.
it's just like the walls are just there, and so you just have to be careful. But in this, you have to get closer to the walls. It demands that you get closer to the walls if you want to go faster.
Yeah. You
And
have a lot
that
of, um, no, go ahead.
no, and I was just gonna say that, and that's just like a good trick. I feel like that makes it a very interesting dynamic track for Formula One.
Yeah, we've seen it in in previous years that like the runoff areas in Baku are used all weekend long. Like
Mhm.
during practice, people always go off on those runoff areas. Like they're always pushing the like as best as they can, and they always miss it. And you have there's like a split second that you have to make the decisions like I'm going into the runoff area or I'm going for this corner.
Yeah,
And like if you misjudge it, you're hitting the fucking wall.
yeah,
So I think that happened for Stroll. I think Stroll was the last person that just
yeah. I
couldn't
think
decide, and
it
then
happened to Ricardo at some point. It happened to Yuki at some point too.
yeah, they
Uh,
just like go off, and you're like, oh,
mhm.
it's all those areas are always used in Baku because people are always trying to find out the limit.
Exactly right. You always have to drive it on the limit. If you wanna be the fastest one, you have to be the most in the limit at all times. And that's just fun. It's a fun thing. So looking forward to it. It's always also full of action. Always a fun track. So we'll see what happens.
All right,
All
that's
right.
it. We did it.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.
Right.